European methods when it comes to healing and treating others, because that's what they do, is treat, not cure. And what we see today is they, in allopathic medicine, believe in a controlled versus uncontrolled group, which is basically when you give a certain group the medicine that you would like to see combats this disease or sickness that they are experiencing, and then not give the other group it and see what differences it makes if the medicine that was created will combat with and get rid of the disease that those people are experiencing, or if no treatment at all would make a difference. And more times than not, what you would see is, like today, I mean, that's pretty similar to a placebo. When you give what you think is the medicine for taking care of what you're experiencing, but actually it's not. It's just all in your thoughts, and how you're emotionally, and psychologically, say, connected to it. And so that's the difference with when it comes to like allopathic medicine and methods, as opposed to the holistic way. Is, and also too, you realize that in allopathic, when they have these controlled groups, as explained also in Dr. Llaila Afrika's book, is that they are pretty much researching and testing and trial and erroring basically humans as those lab rats, in my opinion, on sick people and deceased people, to see if their ways of healing, treating, in other words, will make a difference, or if the medicine is effective or ineffective, as opposed to the ancient Egyptians' methods and ways of going about helping those that are sick and in a disease state. They would study the healthy individuals and see what cycles and patterns in life and in their way of living would pretty much amount to, why they are, able to protect themselves, mind, body, and soul, from sicknesses and diseases that others may be experiencing. And so what they would do is, like I said, study the healthy individual as opposed to sick, and then see how they could take what they have gained from studying these individual people and applying it to help those cure themselves from the sicknesses and disease. And that is a huge distinct difference between when it comes to allopathic medicine and then also holistic. So allopathic versus holistic, and it's a study of the sickness and testing on controlled and uncontrolled groups, and then the study of healthy individuals, and why and how do they live, and what are they doing that is so different to keep them in good health and wellness, mind, body, and soul. And what you see is, with these two distinct differences, there was also a difference in the lifespan of the Europeans versus the ancient Egyptians and those that lived and those from Africa, because you know, the expectancy in lifespan from the Europeans' perspective was not anything over 70, which is insanely different as opposed to, you know, what I've learned from African holistic health and their approach to it. And ancient Egyptians were, for one of the groups that had one of the longest lifespans, life expectancies. Like, I'm talking between 1 and 200 years, maybe sometimes I think it mentioned even up to 300 years of age. Like, this was the life expectancy, the lifespan of ancient Egyptians back in those earlier centuries. And this also had to do with, again, the way of living and the differences there. Most of the ancient Egyptians were all vegetarians. They had a raw diet. They consumed no hardly any meat. Like, if they did, it was very slim, and everything else was just like raw. There was really nothing cooked, if at all. There was nothing fried. There was no, you know, processed foods of any sort. And they also did daily, monthly, just routinely cleansings of the body, whether it was through fasting or through things like, you know, enematics, I believe that's how you say it, enemas or whatever, which in today's world, through, like, I don't want to say allopathic, but he calls it like the Caucasians approach to that, is the colonoscopy centers, the colon cleanses and things like that, or whatever. And that's like very true, but it was something that was originally done in ancient in the ancient Egyptians in Africa, you know, when they would do these purgatives and enemas to cleanse the body. And this was something that they initially started doing after being in nature, and because they're so involved with the cycles and all living beings and things around them, they were observing this particular bird. I forget the name of the bird, but because it had this long beak, they would see how this bird would pretty much cure himself and cleanse himself by using his beak to basically be like what's similar to what an enema does. And that is how the enema even became something of existence, because of their observation in nature of animals and how they would do certain things, and then they decided to take on that practice in a different perspective and in a way that catered to the human, to cleanse out and bring that back into balance as far as the mind, body, and soul. And so, you know, they did these type of things routinely, whether it was like 3 times in the year, or, you know, if more was needed, it would be, you know, like every so often through each month. And that is what you know, the differences is with these two systems. A lot of what is holistic and natural, and, you know, acknowledging the wholeness of our being, mind, body, and soul, that isn't something that is done in the allopathic methods and ways of helping others when it comes to, you know, dealing with sicknesses and diseases. And for me, that's a big, huge difference, which is why I got so involved in, becoming more well, first off, learning about just how corrupt the food industry as well as the medical industries are, through documentaries that I took time to look up, and that came, to me at the time that they did, which was perfect timing. It opens your eyes, and once you learn these kind of things, you have to start to ask yourself questions. You have to want to do more research and kind of questioning your way of living, especially when it's, in alignment with what we've been following, which is a Western diet and the allopathic method of, handling sickness and disease. And there's just a huge difference there when it boiled down to those kind of things, after I became aware of what was truthfully going on with the two and in the two. I can't do anything but live in truth, and I seek all truth, and I don't feel like it's okay for us to continue living in lies and being deceived and blind to what is going on in this world, which is why I am so focused on, constantly trying to find ways to expand my own self, because it all starts with self. And so using my own journey as that example, and being that example by just being and by just sharing, because I want us as a whole to wake up to the truths and understand and understand that, when it comes to food, diet, and medicine overall, and healing ourselves, these are two things that, pretty much we can bridge together. And we don't this is something unlike in allopathy. They don't teach you those methods or even want to present them to you, because of it being so profit driven, as opposed to, like the holistic approach. Like I said, there is really a distinct difference, because there is a focus on your diet, on your way of living, and helping you to understand how it is the food. It is the foods and what we consume on a daily basis, on a regular basis, that makes all the difference, as opposed to what we're exposed to, which is the sickness and disease that end up being, if we are not, consuming the healthiest things that are for us, that match our, like I said, our vibratory state, our high electrical content that we have, our genetic makeup code and genealogy, because it's so different. We all have a different makeup and divine design that was put in place. Our blood type, all of these things count and have to be accounted for, especially when it comes to helping others, when it comes to, healing them themselves. And that's because each group is all different, and they can't just be treated for on a linear line, especially at the lowest standards, which is the Caucasians' recommendations for a lot of things. That is why, people of color and African and black people are more sick than races like the Caucasian race, because we are a higher standard, consuming and taking the lowest of the low. And no this is not to, you know, offend anyone or any race or to make us seem superior, but we do have, you know, something that we have to honor a lot more and respect a lot more and be even more mindful of and consider, because we do, and this is the case. And you know, we're not going to learn these things or be told these things more times than not in allopathic medicine when we go to these doctors and things, because for one, the oath that has been taken, as well as just the way they have been taught, it's not to cure and help you to help yourself in any way, especially not to understand that you have the power to heal yourself. That's not anything that they ever want you to know, because they treat you and think of you as a physical body being. That's it, and that's all they want you to think of yourself as. And so getting you to believe that their chemical drugs and things will work is how they keep a customer, is how they continue to make these profits. Not to mention that, you know, the like medical field and these pharmaceuticals are all tied together basically under the same umbrella. And it's fun, like when these physicians are in school, one thing that is not taught, and this is even from my own experience of talking to certain individuals, is that when it comes to medical schooling and those that study to be doctors or nurses and things, the knowledge that is learned on health and nutrition and food is not relevant. It's very slim, like 4 hours, if that, of school, out of their schooling, that they're learning about something that really has a lot to do with what many individuals are facing in this world of all races. But they don't learn about it. They learn more about just like the drugs and things, as well as just, you know, the standards of the biology of the body and different things. But and like I said, this is something that I know is a fact, because, you know, when I was doing live cooking demonstrations of healthy meals at farmers market, at my local farmers market, I was introduced, and I met a woman that was connected to a college, a university, ASU, and they, or I think it was U of A, but either way, it was a university, and they like, and she let it be known to me that, you know, she wanted to bring a group of her students to come out and gain some knowledge and education on food and nutritional value and how food can be used as medicine, and understanding how medicine is the food, because that's not something that is taught in the schools. And I just thought that it was just my mind was blown. I was just like, I thought it was just so like unbelievable. I was like, wait, what? How is that if they're studying to help people? But, you know, I get it. I understand it. And, you know, like I said, it's not to discredit allopathic medicine, but they just have different ways of doing things, and respect that. But when we truthfully care for the people, you know, we got to start to learn that we got to do things differently, and we can't keep the things that are truthfully helpful to their wellness and their life overall, and helping them to cure themselves. We can't keep those kind of things a secret, especially when we're here and we're in business to help others. Like, that's what we should do then, and understand that more times than not, just to help out allopathic methods, y'all gonna end up, and it's gonna end up in a position where you're utilizing more money anyways because of how many people are staying sick. So are you really making profit, or are you really losing? Because for one, especially these days, doctors and nurses are like getting out of the field because of many reasons. And so with the lack of that, as well as just the amount of, by the millions of people getting sick to different things, a lot of this is food related, and the amount of money it takes to take care of these different things, whether it's the procedures, the equipment, everything, it all takes money. And so it's like, really, like, I feel like you would be losing, even though it's some of the biggest funding corporations and things in place and industries. But I would think that you would make more money just by helping others really cure themselves. Like, that's just my opinion, because you're not having to extend funds into so many different boats, and that's just how I think and see things, even though I'm not very in depth in everything that goes on in the medical and the pharmaceutical, because that's not where my focus is. My focus is on holistic healing and healing through food, and helping others to really just live more vibrantly and more consciously through taking on a healthier lifestyle. Because I don't consider what we consume every day is not a diet. Yes, westernized diet, but when you truthfully become and want to choose to live more consciously, that is where it becomes different, in my opinion, and it becomes lifestyle. You're making these lifestyle changes, and you're choosing to care about what you place into your body on a regular basis. And like I said, a lot of times, all the time, what is being experienced, whether it's symptoms or it leads to the actual sickness and disease of a person, it all comes back to the way an individual is living their lifestyle and what they are eating on the daily basis. Like, is it healthy and in balance with their natural genetic makeup, or is it the complete opposite? And is it imbalance, which is causing an imbalance within the temple, which is something that ancient Egyptians would also call it. It was not a body, because allopathic and European culture, when you consider it a body, that's like I said, that's when you're only focused on the just being a physical being, and we are much more than just a physical being. That is the lowest of our nature, if you want to be honest. And so that's why there is more respect, I feel like, needed, and acknowledgement that African holistic methods, like, the body is considered a temple, and how you cater that temple is very important, because it affects the wholeness of you, mind, body, and soul, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. which also leads to whether financially, if it's going to affect you or not, depending if you choose to live in balance with Ma'at, with the female male principle. All of these things count and make all the difference in your health and wellness. And that is why my focus is there and on that, because the same way you're eating and living, it could either be for you or against you, and that is what has made the difference within our lives, and if you are sick or if you're healthy. And so we have to start to think about these things, or even look back on our genealogy and in our lineage, like what patterns have been consistent, and in those patterns, what has it looked like, whether it's mind, body, and soul, or all three areas. Is it in balance or is it not? And if not, it's time to break those kind of cycles. And it all starts with us individually being that example and choosing to do things differently that has not worked or been proven to be useful and beneficial, in other words. And so we got to start to understand and understand that, and really start to take more heed and proceed things with caution, especially once we become aware and learn how harmful and detrimental certain things are to us, to our families, those we care about, overall in the world. And so all these things make the difference.